Welcome everyone to WhoDooTV Live. We are talking new comic books for 6/27/18. That is June 27th, 2018. Today's June 26th. We're a day early just so you guys can kind of see what's coming out tomorrow. We got a lot on the books today. And to get you guys started, introduce myself. My name's Who's Your Host, and I got a special guest host on with me today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, I'm Josh Rathman with the podcast Get Valiant. Pleasure to be on again. Thank you very much.
The podcast Get Valiant, man. You guys are awesome.
Hey, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yep. I mean, the better looking half isn't joining us today. But
well, it's true. You know, you get the one that looks like a troll in me, but Eric, he's out there somewhere in the world making his way.
Playing death metal right now, I'm sure.
Just trying to survive in the world that is death metal. Brutal death metal.
Man, it's good to have you on, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. I always love coming on. I love talking comics. So anytime I can get the chance to do so, I try to.
So, you're on here right away. And I think the last episode of Get Valiant, I was listening to you guys talk about, man, I can't wait. Anything that's Bloodshot is going to be like our whole episode. It's going to be a title. They're going to show the image, and it's going to be a Get Valiant episode. Just, hey, look at this logo of this movie. It's great. And
I think we did say something like that. Yeah, that does sound familiar.
I listen to this show, dude. Come on. You guys said it. But you know what the fun part is just before we got on today, about 2 hours ago, a couple news stations reported a new casting, and that is Toby Kebbell as the role as Axe. And Toby Kebbell, he was on Fantastic Four, Ben-Hur, Planet of the Apes. I don't think it's actually his face on Planet of the Apes. I think he's an ape. But he's been around a little bit and to play Axe, although there was some differencing of who Axe is because of old VH1. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, first, I don't know anything about this actor. I didn't watch Fantastic Four, and I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan going back to when I was a kid. So I've got boxes of Fantastic Four stuff in my collection. But I didn't watch the last movie. I thought it looked pretty bad, and I was just like, I'd already suffered through 2 movies already I didn't like. So as far as like his acting chops, I have no idea about it. I think that it's an interesting choice to use Axe because Axe isn't necessarily a Bloodshot villain too much, at least not in the VEI sense. I'd have to go back and look at the issues to remember if they ever even crossed paths. I thought they did, like in the old VH1 run. But he pops up in Harbinger 3 for the first time. And that was kind of like not even like a key book until a couple weeks ago. Some places had made some comments about it being a book that people are going to start taking notice of. Some speculators had jumped on it already, but I think it's going to be interesting. You know, I have no clue what the movie is going to even be like because having talked to Dinesh a few months back, and he had said that the Chainsaw Gang that appeared in the Acclaim era of Bloodshot, they were going to be in the movie. It does seem like there's going to be a lot of technological based villains, or people that have been enhanced at least, not necessarily psyops.
Right.
So how that all ends up leading into Harbinger, because the way it's always been told is that Bloodshot springboards into Harbinger. That's how the next movie happens. We'll see. But I'm pretty excited. You know, I mean, I think all the casting news is just great. It's going to be, like I've said before on Get Valiant, it's going to be really neat when we start seeing these people on talk shows and interviews in random places, and they're talking about a Valiant Comics property. I know Hoodoo does a lot of talk of books from all the publishers. My specialty is Valiant. So for me, it's like, I can't wait. You know, it's going to be neat to just see like that kind of interaction and involvement, you know, out there in the world, you know, for a company that only has like 1% market share, I'm hoping they get a little bit more press. So I think it's cool. But again, I know nothing about his acting, but he must be doing pretty good if he's still getting work.
Yeah, I did read. I posted on Valiant Comic Fans earlier, and your other half, Eric, actually posted. He loved
My better half.
Your other half. You know what I mean? Your better half. He posted on Valiant Comics that he loved him in the Black Mirror episode. So it's somebody familiar from Eric that he's seen the guy. I know he was one of the lead cast in Ben-Hur, which, like that or not, because that was kind of a remake, so that was kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
people
I
are
didn't see that either.
I didn't either. I did see Fantastic Four. I thought he was okay. He's not kind of memorable in it, although that movie was still questionable anyway. But again, yeah, like you said, the excitement of more Valiant news coming up, it's huge, man. Because we're big Valiant fans here, as you can tell as well. Not quite what you got behind you.
Even my background, my background is all Valiant right here,
Except for Lobo.
Lobo is Lobo, though. He deserves a spot anywhere. Because
Okay.
he is the big man.
Yeah. And speaking of movies, that would be a movie I would love to see as a Lobo movie.
Only if it was R. I feel like it would just have to be about the most gnarly movie ever made. And I don't think Warner Brothers has it in them to do it right.
Yes. There's actors that would have to play him. A particular actor I could think of. And it'd have to be hard art. So,
yeah.
So, but I hope that's what we're getting out of Bloodshot, some R-rated movie, dude. And Vin Diesel, it's crazy. One little thing happens at casting now, right? And it's everywhere. It pops up so quick.
It's funny because the Bloodshot movie news when they when Vin Diesel got cast, when he got rumored into being part of the cast. People were just like, okay, well, he's in it. When are they going to start announcing all these other people? Because everybody knows that the movie's going to start shooting in July or August. Everybody's like, where's all this this casting news? And all of a sudden, it's been this guy, it's been Michael Sheen, it's been some other people that have been announced in the movie. It's all kind of happened pretty fast, I think normally when it comes to movies, you don't really think of it too much as being casting news because, if you're waiting for say the next Matt Damon movie, you're like, who's going to be in it? I'm not worried about who's in it because you like that main character, I think for us, Valiant fans, we're just so rabid to have something other than just the books every month that anything, they could cast somebody as a janitor and we'd be like, oh man, who's this guy? We got to get excited for this dude who's going to be playing janitor one, in the PRS base, whatever his job is, every little thing, we're all going to be like, what? It's something.
Right.
Which was kind of the joke about being every little thing we're going to devote a whole episode to, because that's kind of how Eric and I are. Eric and I love Bloodshot. We're both huge fans. Eric is, I would say, the biggest Bloodshot fan I've ever talked to.
Right.
Which is always neat to share an episode with him when it comes to Bloodshot stuff, because I think that he offers a very fun perspective on everything Bloodshot related. So I think it's going to be really fun, at least for me, and hopefully for people who tune into us, to listen and see what Eric has to say about it, and myself too. But I know for me, the treat is just hearing Eric be how much he loves Bloodshot, how much the character means to him, and just kind of seeing what he feels. Because I feel if they do it right by him, it's right by everyone.
Yeah, and I really can see when this happens in the movie, Eric's gonna be that guy with the one teardrop that falls down, just ever so slowly, and it's just gonna be a beautiful thing.
I feel like Eric's gonna be the guy in the theater who can't get up because he's got a boner. When the credits roll and his wife's ready to leave, he's gonna be he's like, well, can we just stay a couple more minutes? I can't really get up yet. That's what I'm hoping.
Do not share a popcorn bowl with him for that movie. Oh man, butter's gonna be everywhere. So, but anyway, yeah, but you're right. Valiant comic fans, 3,544 fans right now, and so I bet you this guy just has at least got 3,000 new followers on Twitter now. Having never heard of them, it's kind of the way Valiant comic fans kind of work. And a new writer coming on the Valiant book, boom, a lot of people go follow him. It's kind of weird when you watch this change because Valiant comic fans are that way. We want to get behind, figure out who's going to be touching and playing with our characters that we love so much. So,
I totally agree. I remember when B. Claymore got announced as doing Savage, he was really taken back by the response that he'd gotten from people who really hadn't even read his work very much. He'd only done a couple. I think he did a backup story in Bloodshot 25 a couple years ago. For the most part, he was a new writer to a lot of people, and he was just I think people could learn a thing or two, from the response, So, I definitely think a lot of people that did the Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe web series have gained fans for a lifetime just because they got to be in a web series. So we might be crazy. We might be a little too dedicated, but it's just because we have a lot of passion.
It's very true. And then seeing all of these the Ninjak versus actors that didn't prior go to Comic Cons, and now they're guests at Comic Cons, like Sierra Foster and Chantel Berry, and you know what I mean. Obviously, JDF's been doing it, but there's guys that didn't, and those guys are showing up in Comic Cons. Like Chantel Berry's coming to one around just south from here in a couple months, and it's just, and her picture is her as Roku. Like that's the image up for this con, and so it's kind of cool to see that. But yeah, it's Valiant comic fans for sure.
Yeah.
So, it's a good fandom to be in. And I know like you guys have said it on Get Valiant, especially, you know, right now is a good time to be a Valiant fan. It's at the perfect time where
that line always should be attributed to Eric. I mean, I agree with it, but I feel like the credit, that's where the credit's due, you know? But it's true. There's a lot of good stuff that's going to happen, you know? I feel like a successful Bloodshot movie leads to a lot of things, whether it's more movies, which hopefully more movies. It could be that people then who are trying to put some of this stuff on TV are like, you know what? Let's greenlight that Dr. Mirage series. Let's get that Quantum and Woody series going. It could mean an influx of new readers. It means more people to talk to. Hey, maybe it means Get Valiant gets like 5 more viewers. Who knows? But you know, like whatever it may be, you know, like it is a really good time to be a fan. There's a lot of exciting things that, you know, pretty close, you know.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, it's exciting, and I agree with that statement. What I like to say, I mean, you're almost getting in on the ground level. It's not like being Marvel where you know what I mean. You're already on the 100th level, and you're trying to play catch up from there. Like it's at a point to where you can get in and still catch up with the comics and know the stories at the right time. So before it's too much, you know what I mean. You're not looking at a comic that came out in 1940, 1950, 1970. It's something that's 1990, right? So, well,
even still, like, there's a bit of argument versus what is considered like the first appearance of characters and things and whatnot. But really, if you want to go back to the storytelling elements of what's going on right now at Valiant, you can just go back to 2012 for anyone who's really looking to get in, because that's when the universe restarted. That's when they relaunched the entire comic book line. And those are the versions, you know, you don't really have to go back to 1995 to see what Bloodshot was doing, unless you want to. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But yeah, you know, for a new reader who's like, I want to get into Valiant, I don't know where. I actually think it's one of the most accessible companies because they write a lot of their trades. Pretty much all their trades are kind of new reader friendly. There's a little bit of like, you know, the new car smell to just about everything they write when it comes to the collected editions. So it's not too hard to get in. You know, I think the one thing that's a little daunting though is that, you know, you're like, well, you know, these characters have a lot of history. How much of it follows through with the present day? Not very much of it. You know, I always just think like you can jump in anywhere though.
Right. And then Jason Falter comes on here and says, with Valiant, you could pretty much read everything past a year and a half on Comixology for free if you have the Comixology Unlimited. So, I mean, that's a good point. There's lots that you could read right there. That's, you know, easy to catch up on the stories. So I think that's huge. You know, when you're looking at it, you can get into these stories and you don't need to know much. And that's one thing that I think it was Dinesh or Warren that always said is, you know, hey, this is somebody's first Valiant comic book when they pick it up. And I've always, it's accessible. It's nice. You know what I mean? And then I know Adam Freeman and I have had conversations that, you know, when you get into a comic book, especially one of these new ones like a Valiant book, you can start with the book today and get to know that book today. And it's a lot like meeting a new friend. You know what I mean? You know who they are right then and there, and then you get to learn their past as you get to know each other's future. You know, it's like
I think that's very true. That's a very good way to look at it.
Yeah, because I don't need to know. Oh, you were married before I met you, and I don't know what happened before, so we can't be friends because I didn't know who you were in high school. So peace out, dude. You know, it's kind of silly. It's weird that we don't do that with people, but sometimes it happens with people in comic books. So. Yeah, jump in and catch up on the story in the past. So, but yeah, again, this topic there, Bloodshot coming out soon. Good time to be a comic fan, a Valiant comic fan.
That's right. Yes, definitely.
On the movie news of something that's coming out really soon, on a book that's coming out in August, actually. So it's 2 months out, and it's already been basically said that it's optioned. And it's already said who's going to be a producer and star in it, and that is Crowded, Christopher Zabella's new book coming out with Image. with Rebel Wilson going to star in it. Having got a preview copy of this already, it is a good book. The concept is really cool. The story is kind of this crowd-funded world where everything it's very current, right? Like everything's crowd-funded. There's crowd-funded, rent my dress, Uber everything almost. And then there's crowdfunding, I want a hitman to kill this person, which is kind of a cool concept to people being crowdfunded to go be a hitman. And that's just kind of where this one is. It's a really awesome story so far. I'm excited to see where this one goes, having just seen issue 1. But Rebel Wilson, decent name to it. Christopher Sabella getting the title out there months before it's already put out. So I think that's kind of cool. Get more the more comic book stuff we have around, the better, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know Christopher Sabella, but congrats to him for having achieved that. Because I think that's the big possibility nowadays with creator-owned books, is that you can just automatically do something, and if there's even like a bit of you get like a preview out there of it, someone can just snap it up just like that, and that's cool. Do you know anything about whether it's an ongoing or if it's a miniseries?
From what I've known, it's an ongoing. So we got to meet him at Image Expo, and yeah, it's said to be an ongoing. So Christopher actually wrote a couple backstories with Valiant in the time. Trying to think what, like Bloodshot Reborn 11 with Analog Man. No, that's not what it was. I'm trying to think of what it was. There was a backstory where he's done a couple small things within Valiant. And I'm trying to think. It might have been Shadow Man back in the day. I think, yeah, his name's written in Shadow Man 12. Shadow Man number 12, 2012.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I could go pull the more hardcovers out, but I'm not going to waste any more time.
Yep.
It's cool, and I'll definitely look for that. I haven't read it, the first issue yet. I didn't know if Outright Geekery had it or not, but it's definitely a book that's on my radar. I do like his writing,
and
I think didn't he just? Oh, I feel like I'm going to sound so stupid when I say this, but did he write Shanghai Red that's getting ready to come out, or just came out?
Yeah,
and that was excellent. I did read that, the first issue. Really liked it a lot. Really cool concept. Really kind of dark, really dark book. And, I feel like, that guy's writing is on my radar for books to pick up. So this will just be one more. As far as like Rebel Wilson's involvement, I have nothing for or against her.
Right.
She's just an actress to me, so if she does something good, like I'll give it a chance. I don't have anything negative about her. So all I can say is I hope the book's good. I hope the movie or series, whatever they do with it, ends up being good and worth watching.
Nice.
Yeah.
I agree. I have no feelings either way, positive nor negative with her. So, but Christopher Sabella's done some decent stuff. Heartthrob with Oni Press, like you said, Shanghai Red, Cold War with Aftershock.
I did read that too.
For some reason, I think he's on one of. I don't know if he's doing one of the New Age DC books or if he's on another Marvel book in the background, but he's got quite a bit. So he's got another one actually that sounds really cool that's coming out, Black Crown, which is a who's doing Black Crown? IDW. IDW has a sub-label they're coming out called Black Crown. It's called House of Muck. And it looks really.
I think I had heard something about that this week.
Yeah.
For perusing the internet. So I'll have to look more into that too.
And one other thing that came out today, kind of change gears here a little bit, is the Ringo Awards came out of nominations. So they have a bunch of obviously different categories. Just kind of go over some of them. Best cover artist. They had Valiant's David Mack up on this for best cover artist, up against Michael Cho, Faye Dalton, Simon Fraser, Joel Jones, and Jorge Santiago Jr. So I wish David Mack some credit because I love that dude's covers.
Yeah, I think the way that he's doing, he's kind of incorporating a watercolors, with the base outline of what of the figure and all that. he's got a really cool style the last couple of years with his covers. I feel like either Joel Jones or Michael Cho win that, which is a shame, because I'm a total homer when it comes to awards. Whenever I see Valiant guys nominated, I'm just like, come on, man, get them an award, man. Those guys need to win something. It's not to take away anything from anyone else's talent. It's just that for me, it's anything that helps the company out. I'm just like, somebody win that award.
To me, it throws me off. How in the heck is Luis LaRosa not on there with his EXO covers? Like, those things are beautiful, dude.
Well, I mean, but that's a little bit of a problem with like awards in general, because I always look at all that stuff, whether it was like the Harveys, now the Ringos, the Eisners, and sometimes I'll be like, there's some things on there that I totally understand why that person's nominated, and then sometimes I'm just like, wait, what? Like, why is that there? Like, why is it like I feel like 50 books could beat that other book that's nominated, but it is what it is. I mean, whatever the powers that may be on these kind of things, some people maybe aren't just like showcasing the right stuff, but we all have different tastes. But man, like, I just remember like Lewis's work in like the mid 2000s, like on Punisher Max.
Yeah.
And he did the Cell one shot, and it was good art. It was really gritty. But just looking at where he was then to where he is now, I mean, he's really talented. He does a lot. He's a guy who definitely has grown as an artist, over the years. So it is weird. Same with Miko. Like, I think Miko Swain, like, how's that guy not get nominated? But
right.
I also think a lot of people.
Yeah, when you have best pencilers, I mean, going on to that is Gary Frank, Mitch Gernards, Chris Samani, Stefan Sejic, and Lee Weeks.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, to me, I feel like Mitch Gernards got it.
Yeah,
because I've loved his work. He did what's it called? Sheriff of Babylon, that's what it is. And he's doing Mr. Miracle. His art's rad. I mean, that book just looks great. He is a guy that I just feel like that's a big project. I would imagine like in the next year or two, he's like one of the biggest artists at DC. But I think a lot of people really like what he's doing. He's just got a cool style. I would be shocked if he doesn't win.
And then on best series, since you mentioned Mr. Miracle, there's Mr. Miracle, Batman, Lady Killer, Spencer and Locke, and Sunstone. Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Spencer and Locke.
Yep.
Spencer not Batman. Let me just tell you, because I'm just gonna say it since Batman got mentioned. I'm not a fan of the last 40-something issues of Batman, and I read every single one.
Tom King, right?
Twice a month. It's just not my favorite book that I buy. What?
That's Tom King's run, right?
It's Tom King. I don't get it. To me, it's like, it's just average, but people like it. I know some people don't like it too. To me, it would be way cool to see Spencer and Locke win. That book was really unique. It was just something totally different. It was way cool. I loved it.
Nice.
Mr. Miracle could win too.
Yeah, I can see Mr. Miracle winning as well. I mean, it's done a lot.
I feel like for Action Lab to have a nomination though is big for them.
Huge.
Because I mean, I don't see a lot of their books even getting talked about, which is a real shame. Spencer and Locke is definitely a book that I think that flew under a lot of people's radar. It's awesome. If you haven't read it, go get a copy. It's a trade. I think they're doing a volume 2.
Right. I think they announced that at C2E2. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just cool. I don't even want to go into like what it is, but it's a very enjoyable, fun book.
And then best single issue, Batman Annual #2, Doomsday Clock #1, I Am Groot, Mr. Miracle #5, and my favorite to win it, Batman Elmer Fudd Special.
I don't think any of those were that great, man. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, Batman Annual 2, a lot of people love it. I don't get it. I bought it. I don't want to sit here and rag on Tom King's work. I like a lot. Like Tom King's Mr. Miracle is awesome. I don't feel the same way about anything his Batman run's been. But to me, like, I don't think any of those are great. What would have been great to have seen would have been a book like Maestros from Image, get something like that nominated, because I think that that's another series where it's just like one of the best things I read every month when it's come out. Nobody talks about it, but a guy like Steve Scrossi who writes and draws it, that guy deserves way more credit for what he's doing, and also more recognition. That's a guy who like should be nominated for like any of those issues for like best story. They're just awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And then we get down to the best writer, and you have David Pepose. So then you got a couple guys, Jason Aaron, Neil Gaiman, Tom King, Ali Brosh McKinnon, and then you have Jeff Lemire and Matt Kent. So you do get some guys that have done quite a bit of Valiant stuff on there as well.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if Neil Gaiman didn't win it. I think he's just incredible, as do many. But again, how neat would it be to see like Kent or Lemire win, just because they do so much good stuff at Valiant. I think Lemire's doing the stronger work, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take in their entire body of work, right now, Kent's got stuff like Grass Kings. Lemire's got Black Hammer. They're both doing awesome work. Again, Tom King gets mentioned. Also, Jason Aaron's Thor run. How good has that thing been?
Right.
So, I mean, to me, it's like that could go anywhere. But I feel like probably be like Neil Gaiman or Tom King.
Sometimes it is the popularity contest. I mean, my personal pick would be Jeff Lemire, actually, because of what he's done with Terrifics, with Royal City. I don't know if they're counting Moon Knight or Old Man Logan still, or any of the recent runs he's had with other books. And then another book that we are actually going to be talking about right now, and that is last week he had his first issue of Hit Girl, Mark Miller World, Hit Girl number 5. This is Canada 1 of 4, so it looks like so far a 4-part issue. I don't know how long he's going to go on it. Eduardo Risso is the artist, Patricia Mulvihill is the colorist, and Kelm Robbins is the letterer. But I enjoyed this, having not read a whole lot of Hit Girl prior. I haven't even seen the movies of Kick-Ass with her in it. But I actually really like this, man. It's she is a cool character.
She's a very violent and vulgar character. I feel like she's kind of perfect for like the Mark Miller fan base. She's the ultimate Mark Miller character. As far as like this issue went, I thought this was really fun. It was just a really good issue. I think like maybe for me the bigger thing that I enjoyed about it, it wasn't as much that Jeff Lemire wrote it. I thought his writing work was great on this. I'm a huge fan of Eduardo Rizzo. He was an illustrator on 100 Bullets, and I just love what he does with faces. A lot of times you'll see like someone, their face in shadows. All you see is their teeth or their eyes. He does a great job of shading. Sometimes art should be measured by more than just the detail that the pencils give to the character, but more just like what the mood is, the setting, character pose, things like that. I think Rizzo is an excellent artist, and if you read 100 Bullets, you're gonna agree with me. So here, this was just a book that really looked great. But just a very bloody book, very violent. She's got a potty mouth that would rival anyone's. But I've read the earlier issues of this run. I did a review for Outright Geekery on the first issue. It was pretty good. It's been a good series so far. So it's good to see that with the book changing hands on the writer and artist, it's still continuing to have a good quality to it. I'm not sure if it's one of those books that a lot of people are really going to check out, because it doesn't seem like the kind of book that anyone's talking about. There's not a lot of press or news on this stuff, except when people just talk about Mark Miller. But this was good. So the whole story of this one, do you go spoilers on these ones? I can't remember.
Well, it came out, so yeah, we're spoiling it a little bit. That's okay. So spoilers, yeah. If you give us 3 minutes, and then you come back and we'll be past this.
All right. So on this issue, she's just left New York. She's up in Canada in Jeff Lemire's stomping grounds. And, there's some drug trade that's going on. So she goes to a bar looking for a guy and proceeds to kill almost everyone there. The guy's dad, he's not happy that his son's such a mess up. And he's going to get involved too. But the real twist of this was that even with Hit Girl dispensing justice, she gets caught in just like a natural trap in the wilderness, like a bear trap snaps on her leg. She's not necessarily strong enough because she's a little girl to pry it open. And the issue ends with a bear getting ready to come down on her. So I thought that like it was a neat twist where the natural threat of the book wasn't just the bad guys, because she dispenses of the bad guys, but just like, things that you can't plan for. So it was a good issue, great issue.
Yeah, it is a really good issue, and you're right on the art. Like you can see these images I have up here. The image on your right in the center, like you were talking about, with just it's not overly detailed, but it's so well done to where you get the details that's needed, and it's not taking away from the story. Sometimes I feel like so much detail can take away from the story, and this is just the right balance that's done. And you can tell this guy knows a layout with pages and with the panels. I do like his facial expressions. She is vulgar as all can be, man. Yeah, phenomenal. And like the story is cool. Somebody's been selling drugs in her neighborhood, and she's out to go after whoever it was. And yeah, the screw up that's hiding out in Canada, and I love it that it's Canada and Jeff Lemire's writing it.
Yeah,
it totally it fits with a Canadian that he is to be writing it. The Moose and I, we were at Ace Comic Con this last week, and Kevin Smith was there, and he actually mentioned in his stand up that he actually has written a pitch for Hit Girl, and he's like, I'm not sure. I hope I hear back from it, but I don't know if it's the direction they want to go in. And I really do. I do think he would actually probably do Hit Girl really well. And who knows, after this 4-part series, what's next for Hit Girl?
That's true. Definitely Kevin Smith is a guy who's pretty vulgar, and he's got a great way with dialogue. So I feel like if nothing else, if Kevin Smith was to get the chance to write the character and it's put into a comic book, she would at least say a lot of funny things that would be great to hear. But we'll see. I would buy it. I will buy this, And the one weird thing to me about this is that Lemire being on this, I'm like, yeah, it's cool that Lemire's doing it. But I'm just, like I said, I'm more excited for the fact that Eduardo Rizzo's doing this. I just feel like he's just a powerhouse of an artist. Dude deserves way more credit for what he does. Everything he does is just great. And I've got original art of his that sits on my wall, and of one of his 100 Bullets characters, because his work means that much to me. And so definitely picking this up. Highly recommend it. At least the first issue, I highly recommend.
That's awesome. And that was going to be one of my next kind of questions. This leads into it. But what books did you read last week that you liked? I mean, there's this Hit Girl #5, and then you mentioned earlier a little bit of Shanghai Red #1.
Yeah, I read Shanghai Red. I'm trying to think what I wrote work on. Dang. I might not. You know what? Actually, I didn't read too much. I was on vacation.
Yeah.
So I barely got in town. So, I mean, I read the Valiant books, Ninja K 8, and what was the other Valiant book that came out? My mind is totally blank. Shadowman 4.
Yep.
So I had just gotten back from California. I took my kids to Legoland. So the only books I read last week were just those 2 books. It's all I really had time for. Ninja K, it's a book about Ninja for those who don't follow Valiant. I think it's the best book I read every month now. It just does what books should do, where the main character is awesome. What happens in the book is really compelling. The art is exceptional. Every issue of Ninja K has just been beautiful. I've said this on the podcast a few times. Chris Gage writes it, Christos Gage. Right. I've never been a huge fan of his work. I'm just floored by how good I think his writing on the character is. Like, he just totally gets it. And I think it's probably the best run on Ninjak I've read. Those 8 issues, I think, stack up against anyone else's work. It's just been that
he did
excellent.
Hardcore, didn't he?
He did Bloodshot in the Hardcore, yes.
Right. And then what he did with the first season of Daredevil was good as one of the writers.
But I bought a lot of his Marvel and DC work. And I think I haven't bought that much DC work from him because I don't think he's done as much. He did a Legends of the Dark Knight issue to end the run. I think he did the very last issue. It was about Deadshot. He did a Deadshot miniseries. Both of those were great. But he's done a lot of stuff like Thunderbolts and Avengers Academy, I think it is, or Avengers the Initiative. just a bunch of like random Marvel books like that. And to me, like they never really impressed me too much. They're okay. I bought them, and I would have continued to buy the issues that he had written. But I mean, there's just something about his Ninjak work where I just think, man, like how is like this not like the best book that or the highest selling book Valiant does? Because currently, I believe that's Exo Manowar every month.
Right. I still think it's EXO, and I'm agreeing. Like I've loved it, and it's brought in some really cool characters with this that you're getting to see that you haven't seen, together sometimes. But with Dr. Mirage and the way she's working with her husband, and then Livewire and Punk Mambo, just all that connections, and then the this Deathless group or the Immortal group,
Yeah.
and then a surprise of our one of our favorite Immortal brothers is in this in a weird form, and I want to see what he does with Glad.
Yeah, to me, like I try not to read the solicitations because a lot of times Eric and I try to be kind of fresh when it comes to reading these books and talking about them on the podcast. I had no idea they were going to bring back the Eternal Warrior in the way that they did. In fact, a couple weeks ago when we talked about the Valiant Beyond work that's coming up, like my biggest complaint was like, where's Galad? And Harbinger too. It's like, when are we going to get a Harbinger book? When are we going to get Galad back from his weird afterlife that he's in? So I'm glad that they're taking the steps to bring him back. I'm glad that they're doing it in just like a regular monthly book too. They didn't need to make a big event out of it. They didn't need to make a big press about it. That's good. I thought that they really trusted like someone's issue 8 of their run to introduce like one of their main characters back into the fold. So very exciting stuff.
I'm sad that I looked at solicits like 2 months ago because I believe next month there's a cool cover that's coming that has Glad coming after Ninjak in the reflection on his sword. And I'm kind of sad that I noticed that because it would have been a cooler surprise. Not expecting it at all. But yeah, it has been good. And then what Diggle's doing with Shadow Man has been pretty good too.
Yeah, I've been a little bit more impressed with like Diggle's work overall, his body of work. The only thing I can think of that I've never liked by him was that he did the Marvel event Shadowland. It was a big Daredevil book, and I didn't really dig it too much. Otherwise, his Daredevil work was actually pretty okay. But he's done some stuff for Vertigo. He worked on Hellblazer. He had a book called Snapshot that I think came out through IDW or Oni, one of those smaller publishers. Really cool stuff. I've liked a lot of his work. He did The Losers, which everybody should read. And everybody should watch that movie too, because I like the movie. But the Losers book that he did at Vertigo was awesome. Probably like the best thing he's ever done. And hopefully he'll do some more work of that caliber. I think Shadowman's really good.
Right. I love what he's doing. Another book that I got into last week was Justice League 2. Scott Snyder's second issue of Justice League, and bringing back Martian Manhunter couldn't do anything but good things for me because that's one of my favorite characters outside of the Valiant world. So that's pretty cool. Gideon Falls still tearing it up. Gideon Falls number 4. Jeff Lemire.
That one up.
Yep. It is. Those are worth the read. So, but then let's kind of get into what's up this week and asking everybody on the live chat, what books have you read last week that you really, or I already asked that within the chat, what books are you reading this week that you're excited to pull? Jason Falter put his books last week as Ninja K, Shadow Man, God Complex, and Spidey's School Out. So haven't read Spidey's School Out. God Complex looks really cool. He calls it a total cyberpunk, and he's loving it. So
that's cool. I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's a top.
I'm always looking for suggestions on stuff to read. So.
Yeah. So Top Cow, that's it. So, and then I know you mentioned, kind of keeping with the Valiant world, a Dark Horse title that's coming out this week. So a little bit of modern fantasy.
Man, talk about a book that, like, if I looked at it, I would be like, I'm probably not going to be that interested in it, but I loved it. This book is about kind of like, if you took the base element of the story, it's basically about someone who yearns to be on an adventure. And along the way, they finally get their wish. They get the adventure that they're going to want. but it's more of it's the modern world mixed in with Dungeons and Dragons. So this little ranger girl, her roommate is a guy named Lizard Wizard or Wizard Lizard. I can't remember which way, and he's a stoner. And someone steals a necklace, and fun stuff happens from there, man. Like that stuff's not really too much of a spoiler because it's all over the internet. But this was such a fun book. Rayford Roberts wrote this. He is the writer of The Adventures of Archer and Armstrong. He wrote Harbinger Renegade. And equally as impressive on this is Kristen Gudsnuck's art on this. She did Hench Girl, which Dark Horse collected last year. I just think like this is one of those books that if I looked at it, I would probably just be like, oh, I'm not going to be into it. It's not going to be like serious enough. It might not be funny enough. But I think that this book hit all the right notes with me when I read it. I wrote a review for this one also like a month ago or maybe 3 weeks ago. I think this is a good one to pick up. That's just my recommendation.
Yeah,
if you like all those things that I talked about, if you're like, I don't like that, I need people to shoot people with guns, or I need superpowers, maybe avoid it.
Maybe get out of that.
I think it's some great Rayford writing.
Yeah, Rayford does comedy pretty well. You know what I mean? I enjoy it, and then him having a blank canvas for a new story is good. You know what I mean? I feel like he's kind of been handcuffed a little bit in his previous, having followed a Joshua Dysart run, having followed a Fred Van Lente run. So I think to get an idea of who this guy as a writer is, let him have the opportunity to tell a story from scratch. And he does write comedy. I think he writes comedy pretty darn well. So.
One question I have, I didn't have a chance to look at too much of the stuff that was coming out this week. Do you know if Blackwood 2 comes out from Dark Horse?
Black Web 2? I could look it up real quick. Okay. Let me see. From Dark Horse. That is. Yeah, Blackwood number 2 does come out this week.
Yeah. That was another excellent series. A great first issue on that one. Kind of like a more adult, like occult-ish, like American occult-ish, like Harry Potter stuff. Like it was pretty awesome. I like that one also.
Nice.
And that one's Evan Dorkin. Everything Evan Dorkin writes is great.
Then there's a couple Marvel callouts that we like that are out there, and one of them is a writer that I appreciate is Matt Rosenberg, and I know you were talking about this one as well. And it's a new Marvel #1, Multiple Man #1. Yeah, Multiple Man. Anytime there's a new #1 with Marvel, it kind of hits off pretty well. What do you know about Multiple Man?
I love the character. Jimmy Madrox. He's a mutant who can make copies of himself, as many as he wants. And at one point, he had a whole bunch of them destroying all over the Marvel Universe. So people would think he was dead. They kill one of his clones. They wouldn't know who it is. As far as like this series goes, I don't know too much about it. I'm trying to go in really, really fresh with this. Matthew Rosenberg, I like his work a lot. He's doing New Mutants, Dead Souls. He's done a lot of great stuff at Black Mass Studios.
Right.
We Can Go Home Again. 4 or 5 kids walk into a bank, whatever it's called.
Yeah, 4 kids walk into a bank.
Yeah, I mean, I like everything he does. He did Rocket Raccoon book. He did Kingpin. He's doing a lot of Marvel work, which I've been trying to stay away from a little bit, but there's something about his work that does kind of appeal to me. I think he's got a good use of dialogue. Like he's got some pretty fresh stuff to say with his characters. So to me, like picking up this book was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, he is just a huge comic book fan, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, and so anything he writes, I would entertain reading. So, so far, and I'm excited for what he's got. Him and Tyler Boss are coming out with a new Image title at the end of the year. Where's the furthest place from here? And that looks pretty darn cool. And we talked about one guy just a while ago in another Marvel call out, and that's Jeff Lemire's got a new book with us, Century #1.
Yeah, I would only pick this up because Jeff's writing it. The character is just kind of one of those characters where it's like he could have just stayed dead. I'd have been okay with it. But I think the fact that like Jeff Lemire is going back to doing something at Marvel and it's this character, I'm very interested to see like where this goes. So checking this one out too.
he's leaving Bloodshot to go get on this title. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I mean, and here's the thing. Like, I think that the very first Sentry story is really, really good. The first one that Paul Jenkins wrote with Jay Lee's art. I think that thing is incredible. That's where it ends, though. I mean, for me, I'm just not a fan of the character at all. He just doesn't really work within the confines of the Marvel Universe. So I'm really interested to see what they do here.
One of the books I have that I love has been The Realm, with Jeremy Hahn and Seth Peck. A cool fantasy, post-apocalypse, Lord of the Rings, whatnot journey that has just been phenomenal. And Jeremy Hahn's art is great. There is some really cool characters in this. This has been a title that I've really enjoyed. I know Jared and I actually did a review on it that should be, as soon as I get to editing, will be up. But Realm #7, this is from the creative team that with The Beauty, I believe, and very, very good. So have you had a chance to see any of the previous issues of that?
I read the first one. I liked it, but it was one of those things where I can only afford to get so much.
Right.
And this was just a book that it couldn't make the cut, but I do like it a lot.
I know one that you've kind of, you and Eric have been following, and one that I like, and it's kind of a sad story because tomorrow is the last one of it. Kill or Be Killed, #20.
Mm-hmm. I haven't kept up that much with it though. This last probably this year. So I think maybe the last issue I've read now is probably issue 11 or 12. So I'm still buying it. I'm waiting for this one to come out, and then I can give everything a nice big read. But this has been, well, I guess it's kind of unfair for me to say it's so great because I haven't been reading it. But I know that the issues I had read that came out 8 months ago, I thought were incredible. So sad to see this go. I think Brubaker, he doesn't waste a lot of issues. I don't think he makes everything stretch out too far. He just tells what he wants to tell. Things might end on 25. This one ends on issue 20. I know that he's got some other stuff down the pipe that I'm going to read. I hope for more Criminal, personally. I think that's some of his best work that he's done. But this book has been interesting. I was at Image Expo when it got announced. And I don't know, man. This is just a book that really appealed to me.
I love Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Their work together is great. I've enjoyed this one as well. One of the things that's really cool about Brubaker, he's got a exclusive contract to do whatever he wants with Image. And he says if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have done the Fade Out. He wouldn't have done, and then, but like you said, Criminal, amazing. I believe he's got another title
all
out
the
there.
Books are good, though. I mean, that's the thing. All of his work that he's doing right now with Sean Phillips, they work really well together. They now have Elizabeth Breitweiser doing all their coloring. I mean, they're just a great team, and if whatever they're going to do, I'm going to buy. Right. I think a lot of people feel that way because the work is just that strong and quality is that high.
Yeah, they just announced a graphic novel to come out, I believe, in September for them, and that's called All My Heroes Are Addicts. So, and again, pretty much the same creative team. I don't know if Breitweiser's doing colors on it, if it's just the two of them, but that's something that was recently announced and looks really cool. Kind of going on that same stage of having comic books that are close to ending is going to be another Jeff Lemire title. Surprise, surprise. Descender, #31. This sci-fi story has been freaking amazing. This is in its basically last arc. So this is part 2 of its last arc. And I always talk about how amazing Lemire is because of looking at how this guy can write so many different genres, from, Bloodshot to Century. Well, we'll see about Century, but to Descender to Black Hammer. You know what I mean? The guy's multi-talented and just being able to do a lot at once. So, yeah.
And this is one I actually don't follow. I stopped reading it quite a while ago. Again, though, it's just because I can only buy so much.
Right.
I feel like I'm just gonna wait till all the deluxe editions are out and then I'll just buy all of them. But I can't really offer an opinion on it other than that.
Nice. And then I call out a #1 real quick for everyone. I don't call out these guys, this company very much, but Oni Press, Shadow Roads, book by Colin Bunn. And Colin usually does some really cool stories. But this one is kind of like a generational doorway that's kind of Old West into a, time warp. I'm not sure the exact piece on it, but anything Colin Bunn, I usually would try to give it at least an issue number 1 read. I've been happy with some and with others, but it's pretty good. I mean, he's doing quite a bit out there. So
yeah.
Here's one for us, and then this kind of goes. Jason says it's like Christmas this week with all the Valiant titles, pretty much, and he says he's got Saga on there. It's not one I'm reading ongoing. Are you into Saga?
I've read it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's actually a book that my wife reads. My wife reads the Trades of Saga, and she likes it a lot. It's probably like her favorite book that she reads.
Cool. It gets a lot of press, a lot of credit right there.
A lot of accolades.
Yeah. One book that it's pretty cool. We had the writer of this book on I was going to say Get Valiant. You guys have had him on Get Valiant too, but we had him on WhoDooTV a couple weeks ago, and that's Elliot Rahal. And possibly my favorite cover is that second one there from the left. Is just freaking awesome. And this is Quantum and Woody number 7.
Yes, and the last issue of this was so good, and it was I'm really glad because I think that Elliot kind of got thrown out there too, doing a lot of books that were in tie-ins for events. He did that Archer and Armstrong tie-in for Divinity. He did a Bloodshot's Day Off when they did the weird one-shots that really didn't grab anyone. So I think that a lot of people were introduced in that way. I think that maybe what made people start noticing him was his writing work on Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe on the comic book. Issue 6 of Quantum Away that was excellent. It was so good. We gave it high marks on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to this issue. I haven't read it yet.
I think his work with Ray Sherman, that was probably the best.
Yeah, that's another one that I should have mentioned, but
yeah.
That one is good.
Bloodshot Day Off. And then just a shout out to if you're getting your pre-orders in, his book, Hot Lunch Special. And that is coming out with, I believe, Aftershock or
I think it's
Aftershock. That is in the pre-order stage right now. But yeah, I loved the last issue. It wasn't your typical slapstick Quantum and Woody, but it was in a stage where, hey, things need to happen. And it was a cool character building of these two, seeing that, they do have these powers, but at heart, they really do mean well.
I think because they took out the outlandishness.
Yeah.
And they kind of grounded them a little bit more into something just a tiny bit more serious.
Mm-hmm.
That made it so good.
Yeah.
And one thing real quick, too. He has a book, I believe it's through Scout. I think it might be Scout Comics. Or Vault. No, maybe it's Vault.
Vault. Ghost Whispers.
Yeah, excellent book. So if you like his work, he seems to be a dude on the rise. So go check out Return to Whisper. That book is excellent.
Right, I agree. He is one of those writers that you're probably going to see a lot more of in the near future. So, kind of getting us on to the next level. This is I've actually enjoyed this series. Do I think it could be better? Do I think it was done better prior? Yeah, but I still enjoy it, and it's been the number 1 selling Valiant book for the most part. And that is Exo Man of War number 16. This is in the Barbarians. I believe this is the 2nd issue of the Barbarian arc. And again, I'm going to say that cover on the far right, the A cover, is just La Rosa's amazing. So, but Exo is this book is not in current time, so it's coming back to when he's in the Barbarian and the Roman fighting the Romans. So, yeah.
For me, it's kind of a hard sell to be like, here's 4 issues during a Valiant event of Exo Man War set in the past. So for me, I've just been like, that's kind of brutal on my review of the last issue. I just didn't dig it very much. I'll still read it. I mean, the thing is, even like a bad Valiant book is still a book I like. I'm not saying it's terrible. It's still good. It's just not where I want it to be. I wish it was doing something more with Harbinger Wars 2, but it is what it is.
There's got to be some type of payoff knowing Kent. I just feel like there's got to be a payoff with it somewhere, somehow. There's some sort of payoff, and that's kind of where I'm putting trust in Kent a little bit. I do agree it's kind of awkward to have had a whole series up to this point about him getting his armor, and then to go to an arc where he doesn't have it again. I thought that was an interesting play on it, but you know, I don't know. Maybe it's to build more on this concept of who Arik is. I know Venditti did a lot of that, and you know, Kent's kind of changing him a little bit to where he wants him. And I know a new pre-order was set for this book, which is nice, knowing that it can get to, I believe, issue number 24. I think is what, or 22. 22. So I do hope that it continues even after that. It's one of those ones where I really want to see it.
I feel like this one is going to, because I think that it seems like the sales are pretty steady right now. So it doesn't seem like it's in that category of like it only sells like 4,000 books. Valiant's gonna have to replace it with something else. But they do have a lot of books coming out in the next like 6 months, you know, that they've talked about. So things will eventually go away, but I don't foresee Exo Manowar being one of them. He's kind of like the flagship character right now.
Oh yeah, he's for sure our flagship, and what he has mainly been starring in this is Harbinger Wars 2, number 2, and I believe that Miko cover, the second one. Oh gosh, that is so cool with Ninjak just stabbing Bloodshot in the heart.
It's a hard say to say which one is the best on that one. I feel like looking at 5 covers right there.
It's true.
Oh man, those 3 in the middle.
Yeah, great. I would like to see that one in the middle of the full. I'd like to see them all connected. Maybe I'll put that together and do a full image connection of that. And then I believe the second one from the right is a interlocking cover as well. So some really cool covers all the way around with this. There's quite a bit with it, man. Did you like I love the prelude. Did you like the first issue? What did you think of
the prelude? Liked the first issue. You know, one thing that's kind of a hard sell with this for me is that, you know, Harbinger Wars 2 almost in a tiny bit of a way feels like Civil War in a sense, you know, like the heroes versus the heroes. And, you know, with the Valiant universe being the way it is, you have Ninjak on one side, you have Livewire on the other. They're like romantically, together. So it's like, how would they just all of a sudden kind of be like, we're going to throw some blows on each other, you know, just like that. It seems weird to me. It seems so weird to me that like Ninjak and Bloodshot would be kind of like at each other's heads. It's weird that like Exo Manowar would even like be like, I'm just gonna start like taking out, you know, Psyops or whatever. But we'll see how it goes. You know, like I like the first issue. I'm hoping for something stronger with the second one. At least some action. I felt the first issue really did kind of let me down with how it's just a bunch of talking, you know, for that whole issue. But I still liked it. But that prelude issue by Eric Heiser really like is kind of a letdown with how good that was, and knowing that there's not more work by him on the horizon.
Yeah, I wish we had some more Heiser coming out soon. You know, I kind of wish it was that format that, you know, was originally announced. The dual issue, 4-issue dual issue, instead of having these 4 with a pre and a prelude, or aftermath and a prelude. I do wish it was that. I do think it was, like you said, a lot of talking. Where I get frustrated is all this buildup that they had with Harbinger Renegade with Alpha and Solomon, and we're not to see them still 2 books into this. And it was, you know, made to almost believe that that was the core of what was going on with this. Maybe it was just the massacre that's the core of it. But yeah, where's this Alpha? Where's this Solomon? Why? Yeah,
you know, that's something I think I mentioned that on our last episode too, where it's like we had all this stuff that was supposed to be like the road to Harbinger Wars is Harbinger Renegade, and aside from the massacre of Gen Zero, nothing else is really playing out in that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of sad, you know. Like I think that like the alpha seemed really cool. I mean, that's just my opinion. And I thought they dropped some good hints upon like what could happen with that. I actually thought that the issue 5 and the 0 issue were pretty strong. You know, they're just not really in the right order as far as like telling the story.
That was my big beef with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think Harbinger Renegade would be the road to Harbinger Wars, hence the names. But you know, we're not the ones getting the bucks. We're the ones doing a podcast for free, and
all we can offer is opinions.
That's right, and they're right. Yeah. Yeah, I just wish they would have done something. So, you know, I felt like there was supposed to be more, and then the sales weren't up, and there was a lot of criticism about Harbinger Renegade. And yeah, and that's one of my big questions is how do you come off with a big event, Harbinger Wars 2, and not have a Harbinger title ready to be an ongoing after that?
Well, you know, I think what it looks like to me is that they probably had to rewrite some stuff. You know, once they decided like what they're doing, I mean, in my opinion, I have nothing to back it up. You know, just like my feelings and other people's feelings too, is that when Dinesh left, people were just like, some people didn't want to be there anymore. Maybe that's what pushed Eric Heiser out, who hadn't finished his part of it. Maybe at that point, they're just like, we can't do two stories that kind of tell two different sides of the story. And then Kent's left writing the entire thing. I think if that's the case, Kent's did a good job, you know, creating this entire story, you know, for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem like there's been a lot of talk about what was supposed to be. And then when we've gotten it, it's been something kind of different, you know, but that's okay. I mean, again, I do like it, you know, but it kind of bums me out in that sense that Valiant has always been a company that's pretty upfront, and to have things radically change like this, I understand with like all the changes in staff, but still it's just kind of weird where it's like, it's almost not the same company anymore.
Right. Right. Quite a bit has changed, you know, and having talked to Alex, a former sales manager Valiant at Ace Comic-Con, he said, you know, enjoy the books now, and then you'll see a difference. You know what I mean? The change is likely to happen after Harbinger Renegades, right? Or Harbinger Wars. You know, kind of see what that is. And I think it's true. You're going to have, you know, new books, a new direction, a new image, a new view, new storytelling patterns, new editors coming in fresh. So here really shortly. So I still want to see what happens with this. I mean, it is only on issue 2. So there's still, you know, the bulk of them to come, 2, 3, 4, and the aftermath. So 4 more issues still left. We're only 2 issues in. Lots can come of it. One thing that we have been talking about here on the show is what title would you want Jeff Lemire to go to now that he's not on Bloodshot if staying in Valiant?
So him on a Valiant book.
Right.
Not Bloodshot.
Right.
Ooh, you know, I feel like have to be an individual book, so solo title. I don't know if I would think he'd be that great on team book. He's not bad on team books. I'm just saying, I think it'd have to be a solo character. I kind of think like Ninjak would be cool. I think something like Eternal Warrior would be pretty awesome.
Right.
Maybe Shadow Man. You know, it was always rumored that he was going to take over Shadow Man before Diggle got announced. I've been really happy with Diggle on it. But probably Galad. Get back to Eternal Warrior. Get Jeff Lemire on that, you know. I think he'd just be great.
Yeah. I don't see him going to Ninjak because of Ninja K, right? I don't see him going to Shadow Man because of Andy Diggle on that. Glad is currently being used in Ninja K. Who knows? Maybe that would be a cool tie-in to get it set up. I would love to see him on Harbingers.
Yeah, team book.
Right. No team book, but like what he's done with the group of people in Black Hammer, what he's done with the Terrifics so far. I think it's something that he could do really well and write this, you know, dark, twisted Pete that I want to see I want to see. Yeah, I would even be happy with a Sting book, you know, with a Pete. That would be great.
Well, one thing about that too, which would be really interesting, is that it would be nice if eventually we kind of got Pete to achieve some of that potential that he has as a character. Because for those who listen, who are like, who the hell's Pete? Pete Stanchek in the Valiant universe, he's one of the most powerful characters. He's like the only guy that can really like go toe to toe with Toyo Harada, who is like the most powerful guy.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, especially like one knock on Rayford's run is that like Pete is the most ineffective character for what his powers are. I mean, people that you never even seen before just take him out like with ease. So it would be nice to eventually see Pete become that great destroyer that he's supposed to be. With he's been like destined to be. To see him throw around some of that power in a better way. Yeah. But I feel like they've kind of dropped the ball with a lot of those characters. Especially since for all we know, for what's been solicited, it just doesn't sound like they're going to do anything with Harbinger after Harbinger Wars 2. So to me, it's just like, what a huge letdown that is. Like get those characters out there,
right?
Unless they do something with them that makes it so they can't have a title, and that's what's sad too, because I like those characters a lot. You need to have those characters
too. It's one of my. It was for a long time. It's been my favorite title with Valiant was Harbinger, and that was with Dysart run, and I just love the team, and I think the Psyots are at the center of the core of what Valiant is, and there needs to be more of a connection within the Valiant universe, all the time, except for Livewire, which is great. She's getting her ongoing, but yeah, we need a great Destroyer book. I love a great Destroyer book. So
yeah, well, and one last piece I would say about that too is that with the way that Harbinger Wars 2 is pacing itself, it's making the Psyots out to be almost just like how the mutants are represented in the Marvel universe. They're people that look just like humans, but they've got abilities that humans don't have. They're feared. The government's after them. There's all these opposing forces that are out to get them. The guy that's likable. The likable bad guy, they have a Magneto, and I just feel like that's something you need to have right now, like there's so much about like the real world without getting too political that you could use that with, and I just feel like there's a need for that. Like the X-Men books are terrible right now, and I was a kid that grew up on the X-Men. I mean, like the X-Men were one of my favorite things growing up, and those books are just. I'm not trying to knock any writers, but those books, to me at least, as a long-time reader, they're not readable to me. There's no appeal to them. I loved how. That's one thing I've really liked about Harbinger Wars 2 is that they've given me back that feeling.
Right.
Like the mutants are feared, and they've just got to be like the strike force that stands up for who they are. They're not looking to make fights, but they're looking to finish them. I like that. That's what I want to see. That's what I'd love to see with Harbinger.
That's what made Secret Weapons so good, right?
Yeah.
Like, was the Secret Weapons. Eric Kaiser did a great job on that. And then coming back, I always say strike while the iron's hot too. There's all this Bloodshot movie news, and they're talking about how it's to be tied in with 2 Harbinger movies and come out with the Harbinger Wars crossover to be a 5-movie title. So to have this stuff so hot and in, on the every article you read about Bloodshot movie is that it's set to be a 5-movie series tied in with Harbinger, and there's not an ongoing Harbinger title to go with it to get these new fans, new people that may be wanting to see what this is about and maybe want to pick up a book.
Yeah.
They may want to see what it is. And I think it's a bad timing to not have it out.
Yeah. This is one of those times where I really hate the fact that Valiant only does like 6-7 books a month. I think that you want exposure for those characters. They're going to get a little bit in the event, but coming out of that event, what does that leave them as? Yeah. Get that book out there. Do something with that book, even if it's them rebuilding from the ashes. Get that book out there.
Jason mentions on the chat that with one of like the Lemire question we asked earlier, he would like to have a Ninjak Mary Maria or a Dr. Mirage and Puck Mambo. Just an issue to 3 issues each, just different characters working together. I think good crossover books like that would be kind of fun from time to time. So
I think books like that are very fun. And an example to that would be like the Marvel 2-in-1, Marvel team up type books where they'd always have like Spider-Man or the Thing every month teaming up with someone different. Those books were just a blast to read.
Right. Well, and then The Delinquents was great.
Yeah. That's a great book. More people should read The Delinquents.
Right. Yeah. All day long. And, you're talking about more Valiant books coming out. Next week, we are set with a wonderful Valiant title for July 4th, and that is Valiant High number 3.
Is that the only book that comes out next week?
And the Quantum and Woody Volume 1 trade.
Okay.
So
I don't mean to sound like, oh geez, but like Valiant High came out like last year. I've read through it. It's good. It's not anything that ties in with what they do now, so it's always hard to get like kind of excited about it because it is like old news. But that'll be a fun episode of Get Valiant.
Yeah, that you guys are going to have a blast. I'll be listening in this week to the 3 books you guys are going to talk about this week. Hear your opinions on those. So
and the hour that we spent talking about that casting news. I mean, we gotta do the whole episode about that first,
right? So you're going to have 2 episodes all next week. That's it, or just one really long one.
One really long one, probably.
Nice.
Eric can only talk so long.
Nice. Everybody check in and Get Valiant. If you're here on YouTube and you're watching, look up in the search Get Valiant and subscribe to these guys and watch their episodes on Thursdays at what time?
Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central, 7 Pacific.
Nice. So yeah, check these guys out. Check Josh out over at Outright Geekery with his writing. The guy is a good comic book reviewer. He does some good stories. He talks about Walmart and their DC books, which was an interesting chat.
Yeah, very interesting.
Nice. Well, I want to thank everybody for jumping on. Appreciate it. Everybody jumped on the live chat. We had, Jason and Danny and Not My Name. A couple people came in and out through the chat. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. Appreciate that. And Jason says, stay hoodoo, and I kind of agree. Stay hoodoo, which is not quite as good as staying Valiant, but it's close enough. So, Josh, thanks for jumping on, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on.
Awesome.